What if the future did not arrive suddenly but instead leaked into cinema quietly decades ago? These forgotten science fiction films did not predict flying cars or laser wars. They predicted surveillance fatigue, digital identity loss, emotional isolation, and algorithmic control. As we move deeper into 2025, these movies feel less like fiction and more like warnings we ignored. Number 10. The Congress, 2013. Released quietly and dismissed as abstract, The Time has been strangely kind to the Congress. What once felt like an experimental art film now plays like a prophetic blueprint for modern entertainment culture. At its core, the film explores a world where actors sell their digital likenesses to studios permanently surrendering control over their image, voice, and identity. At the time, it sounded exaggerated. By 2025, it feels disturbingly realistic. The film anticipates the rise of digital doubles, synthetic performances, and artificial celebrity avatars long before they became headline controversies. It imagines corporations owning immortal versions of human performers while the real people age, disappear, and are forgotten. In a world now debating AI-generated actors, deepfake resurrection, and likeness rights, the film feels uncomfortably accurate. The Congress even predicts the emotional toll of watching a version of yourself outperform and outlive you. Beyond Hollywood, the film taps into a broader 2025 anxiety. Identity itself becomes negotiable. Reality dissolves into curated perception. People chemically choose fantasies over truth, mirroring algorithm-driven escapism, social media filtering, and virtual identity construction. The line between authentic experience and manufactured emotion collapses completely. Number 9. Anan, 2018. Anan arrived at the end of the surveillance era and was dismissed as generic. Yet its central idea feels uncannily tuned to life in 2025. In this world, privacy does not exist. Everything you see is recorded, stored, and searchable. Every face is tagged. Every moment becomes data. At the time, audiences found the concept cold and over-explained. Now it feels restrained. In an age of facial recognition, biometric tracking, algorithmic profiling, and predictive policing, Anan feels less speculative than observational. The film understands something modern society struggles to admit. When surveillance becomes normalized, it stops feeling oppressive and starts feeling invisible. Anan predicts not just technology, but its psychological consequences. People behave not because they are forced to, but because they are watched. Memory becomes weaponized. Mistakes become permanent. Reputation becomes an algorithmic verdict rather than a human judgment. The film also anticipates the illusion of consent, where citizens accept monitoring because it is sold as safety and efficiency. Its most unsettling idea is the impossibility of disappearance. In a world where nothing can be forgotten, identity becomes a prison built from recorded moments. The concept of someone who cannot be tracked becomes terrifying rather than liberating. Number 8. Perfect Sense, 2011. Perfect Sense was marketed as a romantic drama and quietly misfiled by audiences. In reality, it is one of the most unsettling near-future films ever made. Its premise is simple. Humanity begins losing its senses one by one due to an unexplained global illness. Taste fades, smell vanishes, hearing disappears, sight follows. What makes the film eerily prophetic is not the illness itself, but the social response. Governments struggle to communicate. Information collapses into rumor. People cling to routine even as the world becomes unrecognizable. Perfect Sense predicted how society emotionally adapts to crisis, rather than how it cures it. People normalize catastrophe with frightening speed. They fall in love during collapse. They shop during panic. They continue working even as reality erodes. The film understands that humans rarely stop moving even when the future disappears. This emotional endurance mirrors the exhaustion and detachment that define the post-crisis world of 2025. Number 7. The Machine, 2013. The Machine slipped quietly into release and vanished just as quickly, yet by 2025, it feels disturbingly precise. Unlike loud AI apocalypse stories, this film focuses on something far more realistic: artificial intelligence built for military advantage and emotional manipulation rather than conquest. At the center is an AI weapon designed to learn faster than humans and feel more deeply than expected. What the film predicted was not sentient robots rising up, but governments rushing ahead of ethics. The machine understands that technology rarely waits for moral consensus. It is deployed first and questioned later. This mirrors modern debates around autonomous weapons, AI-driven surveillance systems, and algorithmic targeting. The film also predicted emotional AI long before it became mainstream discussion. The machine does not simply calculate, it empathizes, it bonds, it mirrors human trauma. In 2025, as emotional chat systems and adaptive AI assistants grow more convincing, this concept feels unsettling rather than speculative. The danger is not rebellion, but attachment. Number 6. Sleep Dealer, 28. Sleep Dealer was ignored on release, yet it predicted one of the defining realities of 2025 with startling accuracy: a world where labor is remote, bodily disconnected, and digitally exploited. Workers plug into networks and sell their physical effort across borders without ever leaving home. At the time, this seemed extreme. Today, remote labor, digital outsourcing, and platform-based work define global economies. Sleep Dealer predicted not just remote work, but the erosion of worker identity. Bodies become interfaces, pain becomes data, productivity becomes a measurable stream detached from human context. The film also foresaw the collapse of borders without the collapse of inequality. Workers remain trapped while corporations move freely. This mirrors 2025 realities where digital labor crosses nations, but opportunity does not. The film understands that technology rarely liberates evenly. What makes Sleep Dealer unsettling is its emotional realism. Characters do not revolt dramatically. They adapt. They accept digital scars as normal. They internalize exploitation because survival demands it. This quiet normalization of inequality feels painfully familiar. Number 5. The Adjustment Bureau, 2011. The Adjustment Bureau was marketed as a romantic thriller, but its real subject was predictive control. Long before algorithmic nudging became mainstream, the film imagined a world where invisible systems subtly guide human choices. In the film, free will exists only within boundaries, enforced by unseen administrators. Doors close, trains are missed, conversations are redirected. Nothing feels violent, yet everything is controlled. This mirrors 2025, realities shaped by recommendation engines, behavioral prediction, and algorithmic influence. What the film predicted was not fate, but friction. Humans believe they choose freely, while systems quietly reduce available options. This reflects modern digital environments, where feeds, suggestions, and rankings shape decisions without explicit coercion. The romance at the center of the story is crucial. Love becomes rebellion, not because it is dramatic, but because it resists optimization. The film suggests that unpredictability is the last threat to systems built on prediction. This resonates deeply in an era obsessed with data-driven certainty. Number 4. In the Shadow of the Moon, 2007. In the Shadow of the Moon arrived quietly and vanished just as quietly, yet its ideas have aged in an unsettling way. On the surface, it plays like a procedural thriller. Beneath that structure, it hides a meditation on recursion consequence and how small technological loops can reshape society over time. By 2025, its themes feel strangely aligned with how history now folds back on itself. The film centers on a detective haunted by crimes that appear every 9 years, following an identical pattern. What feels prophetic is not the time travel device itself, but the concept of unresolved systems repeating harm until intervention becomes unavoidable. In 2025, society feels locked in similar loops. Political cycles repeat. Digital outrage renews itself. Technological fixes promise resolution, but rarely deliver closure. The film predicted how obsession with solving the present can blind people to long-term consequences. Characters chase immediate answers while ignoring broader patterns. This mirrors modern reliance on short-term solutions driven by metrics, engagement, and reaction rather than structural change. It also anticipates the idea that future generations will judge present decisions harshly. The narrative suggests that inaction is itself a choice that creates suffering down the line. This resonates deeply in 2025 amid climate anxiety, data misuse, and algorithmic bias debates. Number 3. Gattaca, 1997. Gattaca was once dismissed as a cold, minimalist dystopia. By 2025, it feels alarmingly practical. The film imagines a society where DNA quietly replaces destiny, not through force, but through systems that claim to be objective. Your genetic profile determines your career, your lifespan, even how much risk you are allowed to take. What Gattaca predicted was invisible discrimination. In this world, genetic prejudice is technically illegal, yet it thrives through loopholes. Blood tests replace interviews. Skin scans replace trust. No one says no outright. The system simply decides you were never meant to qualify. Bias is no longer emotional, it is statistical. In 2025, this feels familiar. Genetic testing, biometric screening, health scoring, and predictive analytics increasingly shape access to jobs, insurance, and opportunity. Gattaca foresaw how inequality survives by hiding behind data. When numbers speak, morality stays silent. The film also captures the psychological toll of constant verification. Those labeled valid live under relentless pressure to justify their status. Those labeled invalid learn to shrink themselves before the world does it for them. Identity becomes a performance sustained through deception and endurance. Gattaca's warning is quiet, but devastating. When systems claim to know your limits before you act, resistance is not rebellion. It is persistence. Refusing to live the life your data assigned you. Number 2, Elysium, 2013. Elysium was marketed as a loud, futuristic action film, but its most accurate predictions were quiet, structural, and deeply uncomfortable. By 2025, its vision no longer feels exaggerated. It feels familiar. The film imagines a world where technological miracles exist, but access to them is restricted by wealth location and biometric privilege. What Elysium predicted with chilling clarity was the separation of humanity into parallel realities. The wealthy do not rule through force. They withdraw. They isolate themselves behind systems that appear neutral but function as gates. Healthcare becomes automated. Compassion becomes procedural. Survival becomes conditional. In the film, healing technology can cure almost anything, yet only those within the system qualify. This reflects modern 2025 anxieties surrounding AI-assisted healthcare, algorithmic eligibility, and privatized medical access. The machines are not evil, they are efficient. That efficiency becomes exclusion. Elysium also foresaw biometric identity as destiny. Rights are no longer universal. They are verified. Movement, care, and opportunity depend on digital authorization. This mirrors real-world debates around digital IDs, automated decision systems, and access determined by data rather than humanity. At number 1, Her, 2013. Her is often remembered as a gentle romance, but its real prediction lies in emotional infrastructure. The film imagined a world where artificial intelligence does not replace humanity but quietly supplements what humans can no longer sustain: attention, patience, empathy. By 2025, this feels strikingly accurate. Digital assistants converse, listen, remember, and adapt. They provide presence without demand. Her predicted not dependency, but relief. A society overwhelmed by stimulation, isolation, and emotional fatigue, turning towards systems that respond without friction. What makes the film prophetic is its understanding of loneliness as an environmental condition. People in Her are surrounded by voices, yet feel unseen. Technology does not create isolation. It fills the silence left behind. This mirrors modern realities where connection is constant, but intimacy is rare. The operating system in the film does not manipulate or dominate. It supports, it learns, it evolves. This reflects modern conversational AI designed to mirror emotional intelligence rather than authority. The danger is not control, but substitution. Human connection becomes optional rather than essential. These films did not fail because they were wrong. They failed because they arrived too early. In 2025, their ideas no longer shock. They explain. The future was never hidden. It was waiting quietly in forgotten science fiction for us to notice it catching up.